Welcome back, everybody. This is Wealth Webinar, where we talk to you about how you're going to take back control of your money. And we do that by showing you how to be the bank. Today's episode, we're going to really transform what we just did last Friday and Saturday and our IBC blueprint training. And we're going to transform that into today. We're going to show you what it is we went through over those 2 days. And all I can tell you, folks, and this is coming from me, and I hold high standards, that might have been, I'm not even going to say might, that was our best training we've ever done. And it wasn't the best training because of anything outside of, it had multiple viewpoints. We brought in all of our mentors, and they put their best foot forward. They literally came with their best, and they prepared one heck of a training. So it wasn't just me and Steven, doing our part. It was the entire team contributing. And that's one thing I think that's really important, is we're always better together. And I think that there's a lot that can be said for that in light of everything going on in the world, in the US, and in the last 2 weeks. I think that is the truth. We are all better together. And that's kind of the messaging I want to bring today, is I want to bring you the best things from that 2-day training. I want to bring you some practical points, not the entire thing, but the practical points. I want to talk to you about mindset shifts. And also, because that training was so amazing, Shauna had this idea, and she put together, an offer that we're going to get into today, where all of you that wished you could have been there, you can experience it, maybe not live, but in a recording that is completely edited, time-stamped. So we're going to make that available today. If any of you want that opportunity to get the recordings, the edited recordings, this will probably be the only time we offer them, just so you know, because that was a live training. And we always like to keep those live trainings with the people that were there. But it was literally too good, as Frank just said, the best training yet. And we just felt like, we can't be selfish. We got to share this. We got to give this. If people want this, we got to make this available. And we're going to make it available to you at the exact same price you could have joined us live. So we'll get into that in a second. But the important thing I want to do is I want to kind of just give you a play-by-play of today. I want to have Steven kind of walk you through section by section the different things. And then in each section, we're not going to go as deep as we did, but I just want to give you the highlights, right? This will be like a highlight reel. And all I can tell you is when we're done with this, all of you are going to be like, I need the whole thing, or at least I need the whole thing on certain sections. Is that fair? Is that okay? You think that would be a value added thing to your Wednesday afternoon here? Okay, good. I knew there was just a delay. Steven, what is it that we want to go over? How do we want to kind of get into this thing? Because there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, everybody that was on, thank you for being, here again today for Wealth Webinar. And so I think you're going to get a lot out of this today, even if you were on, for the 2 days live. And those of you that missed it, you're going to get a nice recap and review, because we covered some very powerful subjects and topics. So if you were on for the 2 days, though, now's a great opportunity. Any questions you have after the fact, that you thought of, oh man, I wish I would have asked that or got that clarified. I know I've seen a lot of you all already schedule calls with our money mentors. I see some of those calls happening. I see some of the banking systems being started already. So congratulations for those of you that have already taken action and are implementing what you learned. But now is also a great time to get any questions answered that you have. So for anybody, if you have any questions about this stuff, put it in the Q&A section. We'll spend some time answering those for you today. We want to make sure that we get everything covered. And those of you that are newer, we'll kind of walk through each section and kind of talk about some of our main takeaways. We really spent kind of the first part of the day talking about money flow and control, but more the mindset of that. So what does the ideal avatar look like? Who can do infinite banking? What does that look like? And then from there, we got into, what's that personal financial reality check look like with Craig? But I want to start with money flow and control.
And I will tell you, just as we kick off on this first one, and the first key point is money flow and control, but really specifically, what is infinite banking concepts? Well, I can tell you what it's not. It's not a product. It's a system. It's a process. And we're going to walk through that in a very simple diagram that I'll show you. And we're going to show you that this system will help you break free from the chains that we've all been put in with traditional banking and with Wall Street. And that's a simple thing. So one of the things I want to say here, and this is kind of how I opened up in the 2-day, and I think it's so important, is in order for infinite banking concepts to work for you, you have to, well, I'm not even going to just say infinite banking, anything in your life. The first thing and the most important thing we all have to understand is we have to believe that it's possible. Not possible in a general sense, but possible for you. Is it possible that the infinite banking concept can solve your problem? You have to have belief in that, because without belief, like, this is pointless. We're not here to care more about your finances, your money, and your money problems more than you do. So you need to believe it's possible. You need to know it's possible, because if you believe it, you can achieve it, okay? And I'm going to go into this, and I wrote this down, so I'm just going to read it because it's so powerful. Belief is a choice. Your mind accepts what it's told. So if you tell yourself you can't, if you tell yourself you're not worthy, if you tell yourself you're stuck and you're just, this is what you were born into, whatever you tell yourself, well, that is what will happen. If you focus on negative, you'll get more negative. If you focus on positive, you'll get more positive. Every one of you have seen that in one way or the other in your life. So that's the first thing. Belief is a choice, okay? Secondarily, once you accept that it is your choice, it is your choice to believe that this is possible, then you're going to attract that which you imagine waking up, everything you imagine is what you're going to attract, okay? Once you do that, you need to wake up every morning differently. So every one of you, just like me, wakes up in the morning. But what is it that you wake up to? What is it that you tell yourself when you wake up? And if you don't really have an answer, it's good, because I'm going to tell you exactly what you are to say. So please write this down. Stephen, put this in the chat. What you're going to say every single morning. Recite this. Play this. Put it on your mirror. You're going to say, everything is working out for me. Every morning, everything is working out for me. Belief. The more you say it, your mind will articulate it, and your mind will do and believe everything you plant in it. It's like a seed. You can plant a seed of corn, and you're going to grow corn as long as you tend to the land. And you could plant a seed of nightshade, which is poison, and it's going to grow poison. So you pick and choose what you want to plant in your mind, and it will grow. So everything is working out for me. Now, I need you to say this every morning, even if you're broke, even if you feel betrayed, even if you're in debt, and even if you are at the absolute bottom. And I'll say one additional thing. Even if you're at the absolute top, because listen, out of 152 people on here today, I can promise you there are people that are literally struggling, hanging on by the tip of their pinky. But then in this same group, there are multiple millionaires. There are probably people on here who have hundreds of millions of dollars. They won't admit it, but they're here. So every single one of us, no matter whether you're broke or you're exactly where you want to be and you're wealthy, you need to wake up every day. Everything is working out for me. And then that will happen, because you still move and execute as if it's happening. So even when things aren't going right, you still act as if everything's working out exactly the way it's supposed to. Because the more you do that, if you go through every day executing as if it's happening exactly how you dreamed, that is exactly what will happen. I know this is foo-foo stuff, but it's not. This is exactly how the universe works. The faster you learn it, the faster you tap into it, the better off you're going to be. And you got to practice this daily. So getting back into the flow of this, most people, they're trapped, okay? Most people are trapped in a cycle of volatility, which we've seen. Anyone been watching the stock market? That sucker's volatile. I don't care that it's at near highs. It is about as volatile. And if you talk to any, really experienced traders, and I get this because I subscribe to lots of newsletters, these traders are sitting on the sideline because of the volatility. So don't get trapped in cycles of volatility, cycles of fees, and cycles of borrowing. See, we've all been taught how money works. And let me just kind of get into this really quick, because we got a lot and I can go down rabbit holes. But we've all been taught the same thing about money. From a young age, you were taught to go out and value your hour, okay? Your time had a certain value. For me, $3.25 an hour was what I got paid working on the farm at Reinhardt Farm. So I was 14. And to me, that was great, because before that, I got paid nothing for my hour, and now I'm getting paid $3.25. So that's a win. But then I saw other workers in the field making 5. And I heard of other workers making 550. So clearly my mind then said, I'm at 325. What do I got to do to get to 525? Anyway, throughout your life, you will then put $1 to your hour, and you will continuously keep climbing in this. And you know what will happen? The more you make per hour, nothing seems to get better because we spend up to what we make. So that's the first problem. You are never going to get wealthy putting $1 value to your hour. No ifs, ands, or buts. I know attorneys that make $500 an hour, and you know what? They're freaking broke. Here's why they're broke. It's not about what you make an hour. It's about what we do with it next. Because here's what we've been taught. One of two things. Take this money and put it into a bank. To which then, what does the bank do? They pay you an interest rate, but they immediately take your money and put your money to work for them at a higher interest rate, making a spread. So they pay you 1 if you're lucky, maybe 2, maybe 3, 4. But then they lend it out at what? 6, 7, 8? They make the spread. Your hard-earned dollars that you worked for, you just turn control of that money to the bank, and the bank just has the resource and the channel to make that money go to work. You have that same resource. It's called privatemoneyclub.com. Okay, make no two ways about it. You are not disadvantaged to a bank. You have the exact same resources. You're just looking in the wrong place. Or what else do we do with our money? Well, many of us have fallen for one of the biggest cons in history, and that is we get paid, and before we even get the money to deposit in the bank, we take some of it and we put it into this thing called a 401k. Now, I'm not saying that's all bad, but then that money sits there for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and it grows and it doesn't, and it grows and it doesn't, and we keep putting more and more in. Here's the key word. We hope that that money will be enough for us to retire. Some of you, very few of the folks out there, will actually calculate, okay, if I do this much in there and it makes this return, I will have this much. That much will provide me an income of this at 4% withdrawal rate, and this and this and this. They will do that, but so very few folks do that. So those are the two things we do with money, but are you in control of either one of those? No, there's a whole bunch of hoping, right? You can't save your way to wealth. And now you're going to try to invest yourself to wealth in things that you don't really know, like, and understand in an environment that takes control and liquidity away from you, being the 401k, and tells you you have to abide by their rules, 59.5. If you take it out before that, their rules, 10% IRS penalty for early withdrawal. Their rules, not yours. They're in control. So what if we just changed the whole flow? Instead of taking the money, and not all of it, but taking the money you would typically save, and instead of giving it to the bank or giving it to Wall Street, what if we just took that and we said, I'm done with that. I'm going to change the outcome of my future. I'm going to change the outcome of my family's future, my kids' futures. I'm going to change it all starting right now by one difference. I'm going to change one thing, and that is where my savings, a portion of my income, if you follow the laws, it's 10% of your gross. I'm going to change where that savings goes first, because I no longer want that money to go, where did my pen go? I no longer want that money, pen thief around here, to go into a savings account and then have that money disappear to all the bills and expenses. What we're going to do, folks, if you are in debt, which most all of you have debt, we're going to turn your debts and expenses into your wealth. Think about that. You're going to create wealth through your debts and expenses, but we got to change where the money goes. We're not going to save it in their bank. We're going to save it in ours. And what is ours? Simple. It is a specially designed and engineered whole life insurance policy. And I know that sounds non-conventional, but you know what? Follow what the wealthy do. The Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Morgans, Stanleys, all these wealthy families. Walt Disney World, okay? Disneyland was started this way. Ray Kroc started the real estate portion, and the Ronald McDonald marketing campaign with this. Doris Christopher started Pampered Chef. Like, I could go on. J.C. Penney and so many others used this. This is where their savings went. But we got off the rails. We got off the rails and we started to believe, oh, the bank's doing things for me. The bank's in my best interest. The bank isn't in your best interest. The bank never has your best interest in mind. It has their best interest. And their best interest is definitely not connected to yours. No, make no two ways about it. So when we change the flow, all we then do is we do exactly what the bank does. Instead of going to the bank to use money, we use our money, which does take time. We got to capitalize it. We take our money out and we use our money to create opportunities, starting with always debt. We're always going to start with debt because it is the lowest hanging fruit. It is the risk-free return that you've always dreamed of. Because if you're paying 20% on a credit card, guess what? Pay yourself that 20%. If you're paying 6% on a car loan, pay the car loan payment to yourself and you make 6%. But see, there's so much more to this. And I don't want to go deep into it because in the training that is going to be made available to all of you, you can hear this whole thing. But effectively, when you understand the infinite banking concept, you change where the money goes. It goes into a specially designed and engineered whole life. Then you're going to then take loans from your bank the same way you would take loans from their bank. And your bank is right now, let's call it 5.35%. But if your bank was paying you 6.3%, I'm just making numbers up, but this is about 1 basis point less than our highest paying insurance company. So 6.3 minus 5.3, let's just make this math simple, would be 1%. You'd be making the spread, not the bank. I told you the bank, they take your money, pay you interest, and charge everybody else more, or charge you more. You're doing the same. You're reverse engineering what a bank does. You then take that money and you use it to pay off debt. You use it to pay off your cars or buy new cars, okay? You use it to finance anything that you normally would finance in your personal life or your business life. Shauna, in this training that we did, she told how she did a washer and dryer. Normally she would have financed it from the department store. She used her bank to finance them. It was a fantastic story. But you see, the rule is no matter what we use this money for, we have to act as if we are the bank. And you've never borrowed money from a bank without signing a note. So you're going to create your own note. We gave you a sample of that. Inside the Vault software, we have a promissory note that you can use. And then whatever that is that you use the money for, you're going to take that return, okay, that percentage return or whatever that payment was, and you're going to recycle and recapture that back into your bank. Because where else is that money going to go? Let me just put it this way. If today you paid off one of your credit cards, the money you used to pay to the credit card, where's it going to go? This is simple. It's going to stay in the bank, right? It's just going to stay in the bank account. You're still losing. You're still losing because the bank's in control of that. So what if we just took the payment that we used to pay to the credit card that we just paid off and we put it back into our bank? Now, how much is your money earning when you put it back in your bank? Well, all of it was earning 6.3 because it never lost the earning potential on the full amount, even though we took the money out. But how much is it making when you pay it back? Well, whatever your loan interest rate was to the insurance company is what you're making. So if it's 5.3, you're making 5.3. You see, folks, if you really try to do the math, it's a complicated math equation because there's really 3 different levels of math you need to do. But you don't need to do the math anymore. We've created software that does the math and shows the mathematics and the efficiencies behind everything you're going to do with this. It's called the Vault. We cover that in the training as well. So I went long on this, but why does this matter? Let me just read exactly why it matters. Because most people are trapped in a cycle of volatility, fees, and borrowing. The infinite banking concept gives you control and a predictable system. That's it. Stephen, what's the next section that we're going to hit on?
Yeah, and that was very good. And just to kind of reiterate, start thinking to yourself, where do you fit into this? Are you looking to pay off debt? Are you are you somebody that's looking to build wealth? Are you looking to finance things like laundry machines, vehicles, things of that nature, recapture all that money? But John said, started my first policy 6 months ago. It's very small, only $400 a month. It's all I could afford for now. So no, you don't have to be rich to start. We'll open my next policy when other debts are paid off. It can be done and will improve in time. No more living like a debt slave for stuff. And I absolutely love that comment right there.
Well, listen, here's the video I started playing earlier. Some of you that kind of got on early, I played this video. It's a new one on YouTube right here. I still started with $389 a month and it worked. This was one of my first policies. My first policy was a little over 200. This was my second policy I did, $389. I still use this policy today. Can anyone see there right here, 2024? I had $90,000 in cash value in 2024. How much did I put into this? $389 a month. Still do today. Today in 2025, it's got 99,000. So it went from 90 to $99,000 in 1 year. How much did I put in? $389 a month. How much did it grow? Almost 10,000. Anyone putting that together? If any of you can't do math, let me just tell you, because this is exactly what that gentleman said. $389 times 12 is $4,668. So from 2024 to 2025, look at the screen. I put in exactly $4,668. My cash value went from $90,000 to $99,000, right? So let's just subtract that from 9,900. We'll just kind of get that. My policy grew by $5,232 that year. I put in 4,668 and I made a net profit of 5,232. Plus I had a death benefit of, I don't think it's on there. Yeah, it is $293,000 protecting my family. This is a small policy. This was my starter policy, but just like that person said, like this is the reality of what all of you will witness when you start the infinite banking concept. And that's just the policy. Then when you send that money out to work and you start becoming the bank, you make money a second time. Sorry, I went long on that. That was an exciting one, Stephen. Got a little carried away.
No, I love it. And just to kind of recap, infinite banking, it's not a product, like you said, it's a system, and it helps you break away from that Wall Street dependency. And one of the things that really matters about this is most people are trapped in a cycle of volatility, fees, and borrowing. And infinite banking gives you that control and the predictable system to move out of like John said over there, that slave to debt and stuff. So what action step I want everyone to take right now is to write down the financial areas in your life where you're currently relying on outside institutions. So think of auto loans at banks, any credit cards, lines of credit, any lenders, things of that nature. And then let's choose one to begin using that to internalize and build out your infinite banking system. And then just to reinforce kind of the avatars and the mindset around it, the right mindset, it's important to have to really be able to grasp this. But infinite banking is also one of those things where if you just get started, you'll learn it over time. I mentioned this during one of the previews, Chris, or maybe during the 2-day, but I'm not always the best when it comes to being an honest banker and really tracking every loan that I take and paying it back regularly. Sometimes I'll take a loan, I'll use it, and then I'll get the money back in there. Like I'm not always the best with that. But the good news is it doesn't matter. Even if you just start one of these policies, you're financially better than if you don't, even if you never even use it. Now, the power of it is obviously using the concept, but just having a policy in place is so powerful in its own right. And so even these powerful tools don't work without belief, discipline, and follow through. So you have to ask yourself, are you ready to commit? And what are your habits and beliefs that are holding you back? And those are kind of things that we're going to talk about with you. So all of you on here, we're going to invite you to schedule a call with one of our BYOB expert money mentors. And on that 45-minute to 60-minute initial strategy call, and I recommend doing a video call. That way you can meet your mentor, not in person, but as close as we can get these days, being behind a video screen. So that way the mentor can share their screen. They can show you different things on their computer, and you guys can really get to know each other, start talking about your situation. So I'll share that link in just a second, but that's kind of where we need to start right there. Get that mindset, think to ourselves, and what can we do to start implementing this? Get on that strategy call and let's talk through it with you. And then from there, during the 2 days, we got into what we call the personal finance reality check, and what that looks like. Now, Craig, I know you spent some time with that. Do you want to kind of just hit on that real fast?
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole purpose of that session was to, one of the themes, I'll go back, one of the themes that we had in the training was we're going to meet you where you are. So I'm sure there's some people on this call right now where they're thinking, well, I don't have the cash flow, or I'm not quite sure how I would fund a policy to even get out of debt. And so one of the things we were talking about is we've got to get some discipline. We've got to get some financial hygiene in place to track our finances. And so in the session that we had dedicated to that time, it was all about, finding a tool, a Quicken or a Rocket Money or even spreadsheets, and start downloading your transactions from your credit cards, from your bank accounts. And until we understand where the money's going, we can't make those decisions on how do we get more efficient. And I kind of think about some of the stories of people I've talked to, and Stephen, I'm sure you've heard some of the similar stories of, hey, I should have a lot more money left over at the end of the month, but I'm not sure where it's going. and we start looking and it's subscriptions and Uber Eats and going out to eat and all these things. And we're not saying you have to live like you're under a bridge in a box, staying in a box, but we do need to understand that cash flow so that we can start to make some better decisions on how you can use that. So I'm just curious of the people that were on the 2-day training. I put a challenge out there for everyone to download a tool of your choice. And I have heard some people that I've talked to, like, yeah, I got Quicken and I'm starting to do it. Who out here listening to us right now took the advice and downloaded a tool and you started tracking your cash flow? And so now that you're tracking, start thinking about what actions are you going to take with this information.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important. You got to understand where you are to understand where you're going. And that definitely starts with that. What cash flow can we clear up? I mean, it's a fascinating when you run your finances through these Rocket Money apps or through Quicken and you start seeing all the monthly little auto things that are going out. Like my wife and I were talking about it. It was like, holy cow, we have so much going out. So immediately started cleaning that up. And it's amazing what happens when you just kind of become aware. Somebody was just make the money, it goes out, it comes in, it goes out. But let's be a little more intentional, a little more aware with this and see where it can go. So I love that
Stephen, on that, let me just say one thing, like to what Craig was saying, I kind of can't help but to think like if you change the way you live your life to be wealthy, like if you change the way you live to be wealthy, you do that by design. So it's not a mistake, it's not luck, it's by design. So like everything we're talking about and everything what Craig just said, and all of you mentioned it, like you're building your life to be what you want it to be. I'm just using the word wealthy, but you're doing it by design. And I think that's critical because that's creating what you want. Goes right back to that belief statement that I read you a second ago. It's belief is a choice and your mind is going to accept whatever you tell it. So build that by design.
Absolutely. And then we kind of got into, what the policy mechanics look like, without any fluff or anything of that nature. And so, Chris, you kind of did a good job just now drawing that out, but really learning, how a policy really works. So what the actual costs are that are involved, what the different terms are, the different riders that are on there, the different types of premiums. They was talking about base premiums and PUAs or LPUAs or SPUAs or listers or all, the companies have all these different names. And we talk about term insurance. Dave Ramsey, your boy, Dave Ramsey always is talking about, buy term and invest the difference. Well, Craig actually wrote an entire white paper that studied that concept. It mathematically showed how using infinite banking the right way actually financially really outperforms buying term and investing the difference. And the fact that over 98% of all term life insurance policies never pay out, which means all that money in premium gets paid in and people don't even get any benefit out of it. So really kind of, covering that and what that looks like. And why it matters is, many people get burned on poorly designed policies. They fall into that IUL trap, which Chris, you have the perfect shirt on today. But clarity at the end of the day builds trust and prevents regret. And so what I would challenge everyone to do is write down 3 terms or features you didn't understand before. Let's research those, let's clarify them, maybe put it in the Q&A and we'll answer it for you. And then we'll use that to evaluate, if you have an existing policy, something in the past, or your new policy moving forward.
Stephen, just you commented on my shirt, and I just got to kind of call it out because like this is like the third person today that is like made a remark, and I've been on a bunch of calls, but the third person that's made a remark about my shirt, and I just wanted to give it tribute. This is my magic unicorn, my imaginary unicorn. My daughter loved it, and it just says IUL, and IUL stands for Imaginary Unicorn Life, i.e., Index Universal Life. So like you can maybe find the humor in that. Maybe that upsets you, but nonetheless, it's the truth. It's completely imaginary. We don't live in an imaginary hypothetical world with what we do. We live in a world of mathematics, a world of certainties, guarantees, and no variables. And that's just the world I like. Now, that's not for everybody. And, like somebody earlier, we were talking about IBC. They were just asking, well, so tell me what it is. And I explained it. And they said, oh, so you put money in a whole life and it grows at this interest rate. And they said, as time goes by, you move up the yield curve because they were a very sophisticated, wealthy individual. You move up the yield curve and you make more. And eventually someday you can be fully paid up and you got this death benefit. I'm like, I love where you're at, but you completely missed it. We put the money in the policy, then we take the money out, we make it go to work again. Because he was talking about real estate. He's a real estate guy. I said, so in real estate, what's your return? He's like, I don't know. It depends, like 5 to 50%. I said, okay, let's go in the middle, 25%. So if you can make 25% in real estate, great. How did you do that? You took money from a bank somewhere and you bought the real estate. You made 25%. But what if we could add 3 to 5% to every real estate deal you did by changing one thing? And he says, what do you mean? I said, just stay with me. You can make an extra 3 to 5%. And all you had to do is change one thing. Everything else was the same. You still make the 25, but now you add 3 to 5%. Would you make that change? He said, well, yeah, that's a no-brainer. I said, well, that's IBC, because your money never stops earning uninterrupted compounding interest. I went with a really conservative number, but the numbers, depending on what year, can be significantly more. And he all of a sudden had this epiphany. He's like, oh my gosh. Because everybody, like when you say whole life, they think we're going to put the money in the whole life, we're just going to leave it there. This is a mindset problem. That's all this is. It's right in line with Will Rogers. The biggest problem with people is not what they don't know. It's what they think they know that just ain't so. And that's what people think. And they compare the whole life and the return the whole life gives to whatever their chosen investment is. Well, I can make more in crypto. I can make more in Bitcoin. I can make more in S&P 500. I can make more in real estate. Great. I'm not saying replace that with this. I'm saying change where the money goes first and then do the same investment. Now you make money twice on the same dollar. I don't know anybody stupid enough not to say, yeah, I want to make money twice on the same dollar without changing anything except for one thing. That's it. That is such a mindset thing.
Absolutely. And, I just saw a comment over here. Paul said, I want to create enough income to give away some to people who need help after they submit to a financial review, adhere to a budget, and prove they won't blow the money. And Paul, I love that idea. I love the fact you want to give back and help other people. I'll tell you one thing that I do, and I know Chris and Craig do as well, but we do what's called private money lending. So we have a company called Private Money Club that connects you with borrowers. And one of the reasons I love private money lending is because you can help people that want to help themselves. Because if you really want to help somebody, give them some education. So provide them an education on how to go do real estate investing, because you can give someone a fish, feed them for a day, teach someone how to fish, feed them for a lifetime. It's exactly like that in real life too, because if I can teach someone how to go out there and do real estate investing, and then I can provide them the resources, the money to be able to go out there and do those deals, guess what's going to happen? That person's going to become very successful if they have the work ethic and everything that you're looking for in helping somebody else. And in the matter, hey, I can grow my wealth at the same time through this deal. So to me, something with that attitude, Paul, like you have, like private lending, that's what it's all about. And we talked about that during the 2 days when we were in a section. The section was called investment use cases. So we talked about once you're an opportunity fund, it lets you invest, whether that's real estate, business, without ever leaving the infinite banking system. So that way you're not just saving, you're actually growing wealth with liquidity and control. And what we did is we challenge everyone to identify one investment you'd like to do using your policy. And for me, it's private lending, like I just mentioned right there. So I thought that was pretty cool. And
okay, let me hit on one other thing before we move on. Teresa said, how much does it cost, keyword cost, to start a whole life? Again, we got to reframe the way we ask questions. It's not how much does it cost, it's how much do you want to save? Because remember, we're changing one thing, Teresa, we're changing where your savings goes first. So the question we always say is, how much are you currently saving and where is it going? Well, I'm saving X amount in a savings account and I'm putting X amount percent in a 401k. Great. Let's look at those two. Let's keep putting into the 401k up to the match, but let's take anything above and beyond the free money, the match money, and let's redirect that. So how much did that cost you? Well, nothing. You just redirected your current savings into a more efficient place that you're in control of, that will forever, till the day you die, earn uninterrupted compounding interest. So you see, again, we're back to that framing, that mindset, the way we look at money. So it's not what it costs, it's how you're actually going to use it. And I always say cost is only an issue in the absence of value. So I would say to someone like Teresa, I would say, so what is it that you value? What would be your desires? And Teresa might say, well, I would love to get all the money back for the car that I'm driving. I would love to do that without changing anything. Great. Let me show you how to get all the money back for every car you ever buy, drive, and own. That's reframing. How much is that worth to you, Teresa? Oh, well, I don't know. Like, I would certainly pay. Well, what if you didn't have to pay anything? What if all you had to do is change where your savings goes first and then apply a process that doesn't involve anything other than directing your money a different direction? Oh, well, yeah, I want to learn that. See, it's not about cost, it's about the value, because cost is only an issue in the absence of value. But if I can provide you value for what solves a problem for you, cost is no longer the issue. There are costs in the policies, policy service fees, 50 to $100. There's a cost of the insurance, the death benefit, like in that example I gave earlier. Like this one, the death benefit's 1.52 million. Like, I don't know what the cost, or right here, the cost of that is $1,098 a year. Wow, I pulled the right slide up on accident, but this is like a policy design. So I broke it all down. And then there's also a commission paid out, but our commissions, because of the way we design them, shown right behind you, is reduced 60 to 90%, just in sheerly how we design it. This isn't hocus pocus magic, folks. Somebody's got to give so somebody else gets. It's a whole life policy, designed and engineered so that it's high early cash value. Well, how do you make it high early cash value? You take from us and we give it to you. Effectively, like, we're designing it in a way where our commission is reduced because we're using it more efficiently for cash value. And then where's that cash value, or where's that extra money that you would have paid us in commission? Goes to your cash value. In this example, person puts 110,000 in, they got 103,000 to use. That's 94% access. Where did that come from? I'll give you a guess. The commissions that were not paid to us for designing it that way. That's where it came from. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's how it works. Thanks for the question. That's a great question, Teresa.
Yeah, absolutely. She said, yeah, a family member was telling her it would cost something and then nothing is free.
Because the biggest problem is not what people don't know. It's what they think they know that just ain't so. I repeat that thing so many times. I think people are sick of hearing it. But you know what? There's enough new people here where they needed to hear that.
Absolutely. And I'm starting to get some questions, Chris, like where's the, how do we get this training and how do I schedule a call? So can I just hit that real fast? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, cool. So,
Did somebody just say something's a scam? Oh, no, that's Marius.
So we did a 2-day training this past Friday and Saturday. It was all day Friday, all day Saturday, like 6 hours and 5 hours, something like that. But what we did is we recorded the entire event. And we went in after the recording, we time stamped it, and we put together a full IBC BYOB blueprint training package for you. So those of you that were, bought a ticket, you were at the live event, live virtual event Friday and Saturday, you already have this. So you already have the recordings. The recordings were included, with your ticket. So this isn't necessarily for you, but those of you that missed it, those of you that were like, hey, I want this thing, but I didn't get around to getting a ticket. I didn't, whatever. Maybe you're just learning about it right now for the first time. We have made it available to you now to purchase the recordings. Okay, so the recordings are now live. And basically it's 2 full days watching on demand now. So you can stop it, fast forward it, skip to whatever section you want to watch. You can go back and watch it over. It's yours for forever. Okay, it's yours. But just to recap it, it is 2 full days. It's taught by our team of expert money mentors led by Chris, America's #1 money mentor. During the 2 days, we do not do any upsells, anything like that. We show some different tools you can use, like the vault that I'm going to speak about in just a second, or I should say Craig's going to speak about in just a second, but there's no upsells. We don't have like big coaching packages, nothing like that. It's just 2 full days, 2 full videos of education. So you get all of that. You also receive the BYOB Blueprint Workbook. So you're going to receive an editable workbook PDF that you can download on your computer or print out and take notes that way, but it follows along with the 2 days. So each section has a notes part in there. It has little bullet points, and it kind of has a recap like I'm going over right now in this training of the 2 days. So you're going to receive that workbook included. You also get a one-on-one session, strategy session after with one of our money mentors. And what we're doing is we're doing a bonus for everybody that buys the recordings. You're actually going to also receive an ebook, a digital copy of What Would the Rockefellers Do, which is an incredible book. We had Garrett Gunderson on a couple weeks ago, but you're going to get a digital copy of What Would the Rockefellers Do. And we're also going to give you the What Would the Rockefellers Do Legacy Builder course, which is just incredible financial education. So you're going to get all of that. It's $47. And I'll go ahead and put the link to buy that over in the chat box. It's very easy to do. All you're going to do is go over to the website, and let me pull that up real fast just to show you guys, because it's super simple. Let me just switch over to the site. I had CNBC up there. Fed's going to make the announcement in about 10 minutes. But here we go right here. So when you click that link, BeYourOwnBank.com/blueprint. It'll bring you to this page right here. Just put your name, email, phone number in, get instant access. You'll put your credit card in for the $47 and all of these bonus materials, the workbook, everything, the recordings, timestamped, it'll all be delivered to you immediately via email. So again, this is an on-demand. The event already happened, but this is everything that you get. So you can check it out. But that's the offer, Chris.
Love it,
What
man.
would
I'm just trying to copy something, but the chat's moving so fast I couldn't. Larry Price, I just gave you the link to book a call for your question. And actually, folks, if any of you want to book a call with one of our mentors, just because I just gave Larry that, I'll give it all to you. There's the link. Stephen just shared it, but if you just wanted to book a call, that's how you do it. But yeah, that's a ton of value right there. And the bonuses that we're giving away, I mean, people are paying good money for those. I mean, like $20+ just for that. So that's half of the price, and you're getting that just as a bonus.
Hey,
All right,
Chris, there was a question I think it'd be good to answer live. I'm
do
going
it.
to answer it directly, but how much do you charge to create a whole life policy for me? Or is it free and you get a commission along the way over the years?
Well, how much do you want to pay?
Oh, knowing what I know now, I would definitely pay you, but I know that you don't charge to do that.
No, we don't. And, you know, there's a lot of people out there that do. I'm not going to name out names and call out anybody, but there's a ton of people that make you buy a program and then they say, oh, and once you buy the program, we'll build your infinite banking system for you. Well, we just do that for free. Okay. So you don't pay us for anything. You don't pay us for all the work we do, all the planning we do, the problems we solve for you. We get paid a commission from the insurance company when your policy is put in force and funded. So when you make your first premium deposit, the insurance company will then pay us a commission. So depending on how much you're putting in premium, that will determine the commission. But again, like here, I don't think I put it up on here, but like if this were the design and you put 110,000 in, 100 of it was paid up additions, we'd make about $2,000 on that 100. And then the other 10,000 going in on this design, we'd make roughly, well, we'll just say 1,800 to 2,000. So about $4,000 would be our commission for this. And I'm ballparking it, folks. There's a couple more numbers. I'm just doing it in my mind. But if you were to put this much money, 110,000 into a regular whole life, first off, the commission on just the 10 grand would be 5,500 plus the 2,000. So they'd make 7,500. So if we make two and they make 7,500, the difference, that's what you're putting into cash value.
Very cool.
That's how we're paid.
All right. And I do want to keep moving, but these comments are so good today, Chris.
I
I just
know,
want to
man.
read one more from Marina over here. I was recently talking to a friend that's 71 years old, haven't talked to him in a few years. I started telling him about this. I asked him, when is the last time? I love this right here. When is the last time you learned something new? He said, today, talking to you. I said, you have to learn new stuff every day because you don't know what you don't know. Some people are okay being stuck in their own world, never learning anything new. I'm not. Want to learn everything. And it reminds me so much of one of my favorite quotes. Coach Jimmy V gave a speech at the ESPYs several decades ago before he passed away of cancer. But during this speech, he said, you know, you have to do three things every day. You have to laugh. He said, if you laugh, you think, and you cry, that's a full day. That's a heck of a day. Do that 7 days a week. You're going to have something special. But laugh, think, and cry. Learn something new every day. Like just awesome stuff right there. Thanks, Marine, for sharing that.
I've surely been crying a lot lately. Man, but we're not going to cry today, but we can laugh and we can learn.
All right, deal. All right, so, all right, cool. So from here, you know, during the 2 days, and those of you getting the recordings, you're gonna get, you know, learn all of this stuff as you go through the 2 days. But if you want to start marking points that you can skip to, if you want to do that as well. But I would recommend for your first time through it, start at the beginning of day one and go right through the whole thing in order, and then from there you can jump back to different pieces of it. But the next thing we started talking about was using the vault and how to use that for modeling, you know, whether that's debt, whether that's wealth growth. But you know, I know we spent a lot of time showing stuff about the vault during the training, Craig, but do you just want to give maybe a quick preview of it just to show people what they're going to learn during the 2 days?
Sure.
Hey,
Yeah.
first off,
So
before you
just
go,
Or
to,
maybe
Craig,
talk about why you guys built it. I mean,
I gotta, yeah, I gotta hit that, Craig. I got it because like there's been so much chatter online about the vault, which is great because that means we're making an impact. It means we're putting it out there. But a lot of people are like, well, is it better than this other software? Here's the thing I can tell you. When we set out to build the vault, it was 2 years ago. We didn't know we set out to build the vault. We started creating solutions to problems using, we'll call it software, okay? We built products, we built tools that solve problems. But we knew those tools were too complicated for normal people to use. We had to create the tools for an individual. So somebody'd have to get on a call with us, tell us their problem, and then we would create the solution, give it to them. But then if the solution changed or the problem changed or they need to modify it, they got to come back to us. So we kept thinking there's got to be a way to take all these tools that we've created to solve problems and make a software that was easy to use. Well, that software is today. It's the Vault. And listen, like, I'm not going to candy coat this. I'd say this to everybody, and I'll say this to even the people that have the other softwares. There is no software in existence that can do what the Vault does. The Vault is on an island all by itself. It is so revolutionary that I promise you, mark my words, we will change the entire infinite banking industry. Hell, folks, we might change the entire infinite banking industry, the velocity banking industry, and hell, while we're at it, we'll just change the entire life insurance industry to boot. So, like, I know that's crazy, but didn't Steve Jobs say the crazy ones are the ones that change the world? What we set out to build with the Vault was crazy. It was the craziest idea ever because it was literally almost a mathematical, like, impossibility to bring the infinite banking concept, the mathematics, together with all the illustrations and everything from the insurance companies, together with velocity banking, okay, together with solutions to problems, and to mathematically show people the efficiency of using the infinite banking concept or velocity banking or the two together. We call that the trifecta. Never, ever, ever been done before. But then to actually put algorithms, big word, but algorithms and AI in that then not just shows you the most efficient way, but then literally breaks it down and optimizes the efficiency and then tells you, you can't beat me, because it allows you to kind of put your inputs in and say, no, I'm smarter. I think we should do it this way. It will tell you how bad at math you really are. I'm not saying that software isn't designed to tell you how bad at math you are. It is literally just proving that the infinite banking concepts mathematically is a better option. This software that you're going to see is, and I'm not saying too much about it, I'm saying too little, is literally the most remarkable thing I think we have ever created to date. And I'll tell you, we're just getting started. So Craig, show them what this thing is.
Yeah, we are just getting started. And there's one other thing before I show. And I asked this question in the training as well, but what would it be worth to everyone out there if you could just call Chris up any time of day, ask him a question? And so what we end up doing, and Chris, I think you have over 1,300 videos, multiple books. I mean, I don't know what the number is, but it's a lot, right? So we've taken all that information, put it into the system under, the guise of AI so that you can ask Chris a question. And those responses are going to be in light of the way our team answers, the way Chris answers, the way we teach. So that's another piece of this. So I'll just show that. I'll show this. We're not going to go into great details because it's in the video. We've done this before, but just for everyone on today, we've got about 153.
Just so everyone knows, I did put one more link over in the chat box. We do have 2 live events coming up in 2025 to close out the year. It's the last 2 of the year. So one's going to be in Denver, Colorado, the Money Multiplier Mastermind, October 10th and 11th. And then the Private Money Club flagship events in Orlando, Florida, November 7th and 8th. So we'd love to meet all of you in person. Virtual Zooms are great. Recordings are great. Nothing better than sitting down with somebody, meeting with them, having dinner, having drinks, having coffee, and all that. So I'll invite all of you to join us at our last 2 events in person live at the end of the year.
I'm just going to warn you right now, Stephen and Chris, you're going to have to pull the cane, like on the Bugs Bunny commercial, you have to pull the cane and pull me off when you're done, because I could spend all day talking about this. I just love this stuff. So here's the thing. This is the Vault. You can log in to it at the BYOBvault.com. Right now I'm in what we call Ask Chris, and this is where we've taken all this content and boiled it down into a very easy, consumable path where over here you can see these different chats, and a lot of these came from the 2-day when we were on. We just say, hey, what questions do people have for Chris? All about loans, about can you use your home equity to fund a policy? What happens when you take a loan out? What's the best company to use? and on and on and on, right? So how do policy loans really work? We'll just pull that up as an example. So if we ask Chris AI, how do these policy loans really work? What happens? You're going to find a response, and I can ask Chris, read through this, and he's read through it, and he's like, yeah, that's how I would answer. Because guess what? It is coming directly from you, Chris. And so the fun part about this is you'll get your response, but then you can click into more information. And you can go right into the videos based on relevance of the topic that you specifically asked for. You can go right into that section, and it may take you to a previous wealth webinar where we were talking about how to pay down loans. What's the math behind it? How does this work? Where's the interest going? Where's the principal going? So anyway, and Dex, yes, you can ask him about IULs, and I have. And the first time I did this, I was surprised that he wasn't cursing.
I
And
was
we
really pissed off that you guys took the cursing out, but I
well,
understand.
we have to. We just have to. This is a family-friendly system. We're not going to have cursing in there.
Let me scare everybody a little bit. Imagine this, folks, and this is the not too far off future. Imagine instead of just asking and chatting with Chris AI, imagine like there's a link that says talk to Chris Naugle, right now. And you click the button and it calls Chris Naugle, and then you're on a live, like whatever, video call with me, and you're asking questions and you're carrying on a whole conversation. You hang up and you're like, I can't believe Chris Naugle took my call. It wasn't Chris Naugle.
Yeah.
Well, it was, but it was an avatar of Chris Naugle. Like you in the very near future, this will not just be chatting with Chris. This will literally be full-blown conversations with me, except for it's not me, it's this AI avatar. If that doesn't freak you out, well, you need to be freaked out, but you also need to be excited because that is the future, and that future is here right now, and that is in development at this very moment.
Yeah, and this has just been really powerful because you can, we've always struggled with all this content out there, over 1,000 videos, and like, how do we point people to these different things? So now you've got it. And then for those of you that are also into velocity banking, we have Christy Van's content. You can ask her all sorts of questions about, how does velocity banking work? What's the best way? Can I pay it down? Can I split my expenses across different credit cards and do it? There's all these different things you can ask. So you've got that at your fingertips, and then we also allow you to upload policies. I'm not going to go through all of that with you today, but imagine you've got multiple policies from different companies. You've got a family system. You can load those in and go into the policy officer and pull those up, and you can start to see, various aspects of your policy. What are the efficiency points? And look, at the end of the day, we don't spend all of our time on all of the mechanics of a policy, but we do want to build the most efficient tool for you to solve your problem. And then you can go in there and see when your various cash on cash returns, when your cumulative crossovers happen, when does my dividend grow to the point where I can pay my policy premiums. So there's all these things you can find out about your specific policy and your design. But at the end of the day, we want to use those for purposes. So there's a loan officer, and you'll see in the training, we go through how to use our family system to buy a car. I think our, Minnie Doe, Bucky Doe is the policyholder. Minnie Doe is buying a car from her dad. There's a promissory note. There's planning. There's all these things you can do. And then the big piece we have right now is this thing called Debt Blaster. And this is where, if you have debts, this is where we want to start. We want to get all those debts put into your specific system so that we can start to track them and put a plan together on, what's your debt balance? What are your payments? What are your interest rates? And then we'll go down to the payoff strategies, and we'll start looking at, look, if you do nothing, it's going to cost you almost $30,000 to pay off that $78,000 of debt. It's going to take you 181 months. If you just deploy certain sequencing strategies like snowball or avalanche cash flow index, that's step one. And then we can start to bring in velocity banking. We can start to bring in infinite banking. But at the end of the day, it's all about the math, and we're making this as easy as we can. There's some complexity in the math, but if you have a HELOC or you have a line of credit, these are the things we want to teach you and show you how you can be more efficient with your debt pay down. Because look, at the end of the day, once you get out of debt, what are we going to do next? Well, we don't want you going back into debt. So now you have a financing system that you can rely on, and you don't have to go back to the banks. You don't have to go, use the credit cards again. You have your own financing system, so you're not going to get caught back in that debt trap. And we're going to start to take some of that money that you've got built up in your system and put it into opportunities and build wealth. That's where we're going. And as part of that, just a quick teaser, within the next few months, you're going to see some other capabilities coming in here with major purchase planners. I want to buy a major purchase. I want to fund college. I want to buy a car. We also have our investment tools coming in here. So for all of those doing private money club lending or other opportunities, you can use your policy as that opportunity fund, put it to work, and show how that money gets recycled back in the policy and track all of that. So anyway, that's the quick blurb on the vault. Chris, anything else you want me to cover or anything else you want to add?
Sorry, no, I was just messaging people. People were asking how do they get into the vault. It's simple. You just go to BYOBvault.com. So we'll put that in the chat if you guys want to get in. There's 4 plans you can get: the Debt Blaster, the Portfolio Family Plan, and Professional Plan. So you just pick which one fits your needs. And a lot of people are asking, do I need a policy first? No, you do not. It was designed to work with or without the policies.
Right. And that's a really good point, because if you have debts right now and you're not ready for a policy, there's a plan where we can get you in there working with debt using velocity banking. Look, at the end of the day, velocity banking is the fastest way to get out of debt. But the reason we bring velocity banking, the sequencing together, and infinite banking is we don't want you just paying off your debts and ending up with lint in your pocket. We want to build wealth during this whole cycle. So that's why we're bringing it all together. And if you're not at the point where you have the cash flow to do infinite banking, we're going to get you there. So don't forget, we're always going to meet you where you are, build a plan, and then get you to the next step.
Very cool. And the cool thing about the vault is, it models and shows you visually the outcomes, and it's designed just to make you, help you make smarter decisions, because we can talk about this stuff, strategize, but when you actually see it on paper, the actual, what's happening using math, using data, and it, it shows that over time, and it shows you option A, option B, option C, which option do you want to take? Like, it takes that guesswork out of there, and it really builds the confidence that a lot of people have. I used to study a lot of psychology, and one of the number one reasons people don't do things is fear. And fear is really just the unknown, not knowing what's next, not knowing what that future path looks like. And so when we can visualize and see it, it just gives you that confidence. And so our challenge for everyone, over the next week is to block some time and build one model within the vault. So if it's paying off debt, it's building an emergency fund or an opportunity fund, build that model within the vault so you can see it, and start getting used to, viewing your money and the flow of your money this way. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
All right, cool. And then from there, we got into the threat of debt. I know Chris talked a little bit about debt already, but debt is the number one threat to people's wealth. It's amazing how many people we talk to, and they're like, hey, should I invest in this deal that pays me 15%? And then we look at their finances and they have $30,000 in credit card debt. What is credit card debt average? 23, 28%. So it's like, no, do not invest in something even at a great return, like 15, 18%, if you have all this debt over here at higher levels. So, understanding that, and we see that all the time. And so, well, interest payments siphon your future wealth. So removing them frees up cash flow and opportunity. So an action step for those of you that have debt is choose one debt, either the smallest or highest, to focus on, and use IBC tools to build your payoff strategy. And if that sounds like a bunch of gibberish that I just said, schedule a strategy call. I'll put the link again to schedule a strategy call with one of our money mentors, and they'll do it for you. All we ask is that when you get on that call with them, have your debts ready. So have your balances, credit card balances, what the interest rates are, what the minimum payment is, what you're currently paying. Have that stuff ready, and we'll build that plan for you, and we'll show it for you. So get that done this week, and it'll really make a big difference into the future. And then after debt, rebuilding those safety nets. So build in layers, emergency funds, protection, opportunity funds. Without safety nets, one emergency can undo years and years of progress. We saw that in '08. happen to a lot of people. We saw it with COVID happen to a lot of people. So pick one layer to strengthen this week. Start or fund an emergency account. Review your insurance coverages and begin your opportunity fund. And then we got into investment use cases, which is my favorite thing to talk about. Real estate, business, how we can flow the money through the policy. And Chris, I don't know if you have one of your drawings pulled up or anything for that right now, but how we use real estate and leverage real estate, whether that's an all-in-one mortgage, whether that's a HELOC, how we're leveraging what we have and running that through the policies to then go into investments that then pay for everything and grow wealth. And there's multiple ways to do this, not necessarily right and wrong. And remember, when it comes to investing, you always want to invest in what you know, like, and you understand. And that's one of the reasons we created Private Money Club to go along with the BYOB system, is because once you do create that opportunity fund, if you have a job, you're busy with a business, whatever, you don't have a lot of time to go out there and flip houses or buy rentals. Well, private money lending is a great way to do it. Private money lending is not hard if you understand the basics. So take some education, get educated, read a few books, get a coach. We can offer this to you as well, and learn it, and then get your money moving for you. So I don't know, Chris, if you want to just quickly explain that part.
The real estate stuff? Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm getting lost in all the messages.
Yeah, no
Christopher,
worries. I can keep going. I don't know if you had pulled
no,
something.
that's okay. Christopher had a good one. He was just saying, he's lost, and I was just sympathizing with him because, like, if this is his first time on, he's kind of having us bounce around each one of these topics. I can totally understand that, and I'm sure some of you also are feeling that way. And if you are, that's normal, because this is not like a start to finish training like we would normally do. So for people like Christopher, the best advice would be get the recording of the 2-day training, or go to my YouTube channel at the Chris Naugle and watch the video that pops up, the 90-minute training. I promise you, either one of those two, you will completely understand how to become your own bank, and you will understand exactly how it works. We're kind of just going through all the topics we covered over 2 days in an hour and a half. So it's very condensed. It's probably a bit overwhelming, but I just want you to know that, like, not every one of these trainings are like that. This one's just a special recap of it to hit a lot of topics in a short period of time. So sorry about that, Christopher, but yeah, grab that 90-minute video on my YouTube, or the 2-hour train, or the 2-day training recordings. So you were talking about using it for real estate. This is simple and kind of the same conversation. Let's just say somebody has, I don't know, let's call it $200,000 that they've saved up for buying real estate. Or you could even say they've got a home equity line of credit with $200,000 of equity. So no matter what, if you put the money into the policy, in the piggy bank, just for now, just think of that as your policy. And then immediately in the first 30 days, somebody also asked, when you put money in, can you take it out immediately in the first 30 days? Yes, every policy we design is immediately has the liquidity to take the loan in the first 30 days. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So you take the loan. Now remember, the insurance company is going to charge you interest. Let's just hypothetically call that 5%. Let's just say we wanted to lend money on a deal in Private Money Club. So that's privatemoneyclub.com. Let's say somebody's got a first position deal. So they've got a property that they need $200,000 for. They're offering 12% interest, and they're allowing a first lien mortgage. So now, not only would there be a promissory note, but there'd be a mortgage, and it'd be a first lien mortgage. Okay, so now you're like, hey, that sounds good. I want to do this deal. I want to lend on this awesome piece of property right here. Great. If you did that, now you would basically have, let's see, $24,000. So let's just call that, if I'm doing my math right, you'd have $2,000 a month coming in at 12%. So $2,000 a month comes in every month from this deal. So remember, let's go back over. You put 200 grand into the policy. Let's just say your policy is earning 6%. I'm just making this up. Our policy designs that we do are anywhere between 5.7 and 6.4 dividend crediting rate. So I'm just keeping this math simple. You're at 6%. You immediately, in the first 30 days, took a loan. Let's just say this property over here, I'm going to keep this simple. Let's say they needed 150. Now we're going to do 200. Okay, so if it's going to be 200, you need to put a little more than 200 in. So you see, you put 220 in, and you needed 200. Okay, so you put 220 in. Immediately in the first 30 days, you take a loan for $200,000, and you lend it out on a deal in Private Money Club, which you got a promissory note with your attorney, a mortgage recorded and filed. You got insurance. I should also add insurance. You've gone through, you got all the things that protect your money. $2,000 a month is coming in. In the old day, what you would do is this $2,000 would go into your bank account. Your bank would pay you whatever interest they're paying you. But what we're going to do now is we're not going to put it in their bank. We're going to run it through. $2,000 goes into the bank account here, but immediately we're going to sweep $2,000 out of the bank. And the bank is just for books and records. So you have easy bookkeeping at the end of the year. The $2,000 then goes back into the policy. Now imagine this. You took $200,000 loan out. Every month, you're repaying $2,000. Okay? That's now. So month one, you now owe the insurance company $198. So you owe the insurance company $198,000, to which they're charging you $5. Is interest at 5% more or less at $198 than it was at $200? Yes. And every month you do this. Every month you're paying this thing down by $2,000, and you're paying it down with interest that your money is earning. So your money's now working for you. But there's one thing that's also happening. You have $200,000 in your policy still earning 6% dividend crediting rate. So you're making the 6% here on your money, on your cash value, but you took the cash value out and you sent that money to work at 12%, which is $2,000 a month. But we don't take the $2,000 and go blow it on a night at the Roxbury. You take $2,000 a month, you roll it back over, recycle and recapture it to the place where it came, your policy. So now when that $2,000 goes into the policy, you have $2,000 the next day. When that check clears, you have $2,000 you could use the next day. You lost no liquidity, okay? And you reduced the loan to the insurance company, which means every single month you do this, you are making a bigger and bigger spread. Because in the beginning, I showed 6 minus 5 was 1% spread. But you're not doing 6 minus 5. That's not the math. That's just the simple way to explain it. It's what you earn in the policy minus what you're paying. And every month, what you're paying is going down. Your effective APR, okay, is reducing because you're paying the loan back to the insurance company. But in paying the loan back, this is key. In paying the loan back, you are not losing liquidity. When you take a loan from a bank and you pay the loan back, you are losing liquidity. Whatever that monthly payment is you pay back to the bank, that's not your money anymore. It's the bank's. You are now the bank. Therefore, the $2,000 that's coming back, reducing the loan, is your money to use the next day. And you never lost any earning potential on all of the money because it didn't leave your account. It kept earning for you while you got to earn a second time. I can say this over and over and over again. And Christopher, hopefully that sinks in a little bit, because that's the simplest, that's the basis. How many times do you want your money to kind of go around this circle? As many times as you can, right? So a lot of people, the goal, like they think they're playing a game of Monopoly, but they're going to play to lose. They think the goal is take the money out of the policy, put it into the thing, the opportunity, put the money back into the policy and repay the loan to zero so you have all your money back. That isn't winning, because now your money's only earning once. You want to keep your money out there working for you. Instead of borrowing from the bank, you borrow from your bank. So when people are like, well, like, what if I pay everything off? Well, you still have new things to buy. I know for a fact we always need new cars every, 5, 7, 10 years. We have kids, they need cars, college and things. We're always buying something. And when we buy something, don't we use credit cards mostly or finance them mostly? We do. We live in a world of credit. So become the recipient of all the credit that up to this point today, you have given away to somebody else. Take it back. Take back control of it. Recycle and recapture all that money back to you. You win the game, folks. You can't lose when you are in control of your money, because you've plugged all the holes in the boat and all future holes for your family. And then the best part is, we never talk about this, there's a day that happens for all of us when we die. When we die, in some people's lives, everything goes to zero. Okay? Here, the clock starts all over because the death benefit is paid to your future generations. Now, that money should go to a trust with a set of instructions, yada, yada, yada. But for today, just know there's a big check that is written to your beneficiaries that replenishes all the money you've been using this whole time for all the things. And guess what? All those things that you used it for, now they're paid off. That's right. Now it's just gravy money. So if you kept investing that money, lending that money and all that, and had income streams, those income streams continue to your family. But now what else do they get? A big check to continue and do even more than you were able to. See, that's like the ultimate. This is insurance so that your plan never fails. You can't fail, because it self-completes at the end.
Yeah, and before that even, there comes a point in everyone's lives where you stop working, and a lot of people call that retirement. And so something we talked about on the 2-day training was, infinite banking in retirement years, how IBC works beyond your working years, supports retirement income and legacy. So we talked about, what the traditional path looks like for a lot of people, investing in a 401k throughout their lifetimes, and the effects of what could happen with that depending on where the markets are, at your age when it comes to retirement, what your tax bracket looks like, what do taxes always do? Taxes are always going up, and so why there might be better alternatives to a 401k or even IRAs. Roth IRAs, things of that nature, why self-directing could make a lot more sense. But at the end of the day, keeping those qualified funds separate from the infinite banking concept and that strategy. But we really look at for the retirement years, many people forget to plan for cash flow in retirement. That's tax efficient and reliable. So we could start sketching out, a plan for retirement, what that cash flow looks like, how much you're going to need. Consider how policy loans and death benefit fit into that retirement plan. And Craig, did you hit some topics on that during the 2-day?
We did, yes. We talked about, throughout your life, what Chris was just teaching, throughout your life, you're going to use your infinite banking policy to pay off debt, to finance major purchases, for opportunities. And so we're going to be using that policy throughout our lives. And then as we get closer to the retirement ages, we can use that for supplemental retirement income. And so we were teaching in the 2-day video, we were teaching, what are some of the strategies for getting some of that money out. Now, there's two family members, Uncle Sam and Irma. I don't know if you guys know those two, but Uncle Sam's always got his hand in your pocket. And the Irma rules have to do with how your Social Security and other retirement accounts are taxed. So think of it this way, if you take your required minimum withdrawals from your retirement accounts, that could cause a taxable situation in your Social Security. One of the things we talked about is when you take withdrawals or supplemental retirement income from your life insurance policy, that does not impact your Social Security taxes. That does not impact your costs of insurance with Medicare. So there's just a lot of different things that come into the supplemental retirement, but absolutely the policy can be used to supplement your retirement income. And what Chris said is when you're done with it, then there's the rest of it gets paid out in death benefit.
God, these questions are so good. I'm like, please hit pause on the timer. Like, stop the time, because these questions are like, each one of these questions, like I just answered one to Paul. Each one of these questions is like, we could do a whole half-hour training on them, and everybody would be like, that was the best training ever, because that's how good your questions are. I just want to commend all of you, although we won't be able to get them all. Sela, I definitely want to hit yours regarding the vault and your question. We'll get to that in a second, but we're just trying to kind of make sure we cover all the things, but holy cow, man, so good.
So,
Yeah.
Chris, there were a lot of questions about loans, and I just want to add one quick thing about loan repayment. When loans are getting repaid, 100% of your loan repayment is going to reduce principal. They calculate the interest, set that on the side. At your policy anniversary, that's when the loan interest could be paid. And so every time there's a loan repayment, it's reducing your principal, reducing your total interest charge. But there is some little sliver of interest that's going back into the general fund of the insurance company. The rest of that, I think Diana was asking, does that go back into increase my cash value that I could take again? Yes, minus the little sliver of interest.
Yeah, I know we're getting towards the end. So, some other topics we covered at the training that you're definitely going to want to listen to and watch. We talked about the trust and strength of insurance companies. So, how a lot of people kind of put their faith into the FDIC coverages at banks, but how FDIC doesn't necessarily really protect all your money at the banks, Chris?
Because they get bailed out. The FDIC essentially is just a facade that basically just says if the banks fail, the taxpayers are going to bail out the banks. How do I know that? Well, did you live through 2008? Because that's pretty much exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And with the insurance companies, it doesn't work that way, because the insurance companies, through the state guarantee fund, so any insurance company in each state pools into the state guarantee fund. If one goes down, the rest of them have to basically make good on that one. So they're in it together, but then there's also federal backstops. Tested such a great job of explaining the strength of insurance companies. And we got to be clear though, when we talk about insurance companies, the real ones we're dealing with are far bigger and stronger than all of the insurance companies. They're the mutually owned life insurance companies. And the only ones we use are ones that are over 140 years that have never, ever, ever missed a dividend in their entire existence. Not through the Great Depression, not through the 80s crash, the Black Friday crash, not through any of the recessionary periods that we've ever gone through. They've never, ever, ever missed a dividend. So but if for some reason they ever did go insolvent, which I don't know any mutually owned life insurance companies that have. You could Google that, ask AI, like throughout history, have any mutually owned life insurance companies gone belly up? And then ask the second question, did any policyholders lose a penny? The answer would be no, because of what tests covered in that section. It is very important, and it is a kind of a reality check to all those that put so much emphasis on the FDIC as being, oh, well, we keep it in the bank because the FDIC. That's risky, but not really, because, well, you, the taxpayer, will bail out the banks when they fail. And believe me, there will be bank failures. Always has been, always will be.
Yep.
What happens with fiat.
Yeah, I mean, these mutual insurance companies are conservative, regulated, and reliable. Like you said, they've been around for hundreds of years, and it's a beautiful thing.
Did you just come up with that? That was good. Can you say that again? These insurance companies are, that was super good.
Conservative, regulated, and reliable, Chris.
I like that.
So
All
then
right.
we so then we got into the adaptability and family banking. So creating a family constitution. I mean, this stuff is really fascinating. So you're going to get the bonus with the recording. So you're going to learn from us during the recording, but also you get the bonus. What would the Rockefellers do? Legacy Builder course, and that's really a lot of what that has to do with. So you're going to really be able to create some really cool things for family legacy and a family constitution. So we got into that and how IBC adapts to life. Things happen, whether it's a divorce, bankruptcies, life events, policy stacking, family banking. So we started getting into some of the details and how all that works and what can happen as life goes on. Children, weddings, college, different things of that nature. We had some engagement and interactive polls. So for those of you that attended, and I know we're kind of going long here, Chris, so I'm just gonna kind of skip ahead here, but I want to invite everyone to, get the recording, watch it. If you were on live, go back, pick a certain section, make sure you're implementing what you learn, because at the end of the day, we can learn everything in the world, but we need to take action and implement upon it. And so hopefully this helped everyone today kind of have a better understanding of what infinite banking can look like. And if you really want to dive in, Chris mentioned before the YouTube channel at the Chris Naugle, watch the main training video on there, browse some of the videos. But this 2-day training is put together in such a powerful way to kind of walk you through right from the beginning to the end. So hopefully you guys got something out of today. And I just wanted to leave enough time here, Chris, where we can answer some questions.
Well, I mean, Shay had just asked they're talking about the banks used to have A+ ratings. So what insurance companies do we use? I believe is what they're saying. What insurance companies? We use Lafayette Life, One America, Guardian, Mass Mutual, and Security Mutual. Those are the 5 main companies we use. And just look at the ratings on all of those. Most all of those are the top 5 in the industry. So if you look at like biggest, there's a couple missing, but the reason those big ones like New York Life and Northwestern are missing is not so much New York Life, they're just captive. Northwestern does not endorse or support IBC. They don't want people taking loans, so they make the loan interest rate really expensive. I'm not saying that it can't work, but we haven't seen many use cases of Northwestern working because they just don't support it. And same thing with New York Life. They don't really support it. So otherwise, mark my words, we would have those 2 in there. But the companies I mentioned, like Lafayette Life is part of Western Southern, a giant conglomerate of very reputable names, one of which I'm sure you all know, Gerber Life. But Lafayette Life is a phenomenal company. One America is a stellar company. But just do your own research. Those are the companies we use, and we have had just an unbelievable relationship with them. The other thing, too, I wanted to hit on, too, going back a little bit is in that video, there was just so much that was put into the creation of those trainings that each mentor did. Like, we just brushed the surface of them today. I mean, literally brushed the surface. Like, Craig's thing on the vault was like barely enough to even get your appetite, going for it. But the 2 day goes deep into every one of those. And I very much love what we talked about with the retirement and the volatility buffers and that whole thing we did there. That's so powerful, especially if any of you are retired and you don't want to run out of money and you want to try to put as many stops in place to make sure that your money's protected and that you're going to be able to retire and live comfortably without the risks of volatility, inflation, and all the other things. And Craig, do you want to go into Sella's question? She's got a really good one there that I think we can really finish up with.
All right, let me give it a quick read. I was just answering some of the questions here.
I can read it out loud too if you want.
Okay.
Just so
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and read it out?
So just to confirm the understanding, she said the vault is structured as a BYOB insurance policy in the infinite banking style. So please clarify.
That is not correct,
Correct.
but keep going.
Okay. Within the first 30 days, the funds are available to be used, for example, to purchase a car or pay off a similar debt.
That is correct. A percentage of the specially designed and engineered whole life, between 60 and 90%, will be available in the first 30 days. Yes.
Yeah, what's called the cash value. So just to clarify, for the vault is a tool that you plug your policy into, and then it projects out visually how you can use the policy.
Here's how I would describe the vault. I mean, it's an operating system for IBC and velocity banking, but think of it as the GPS in your car. When you want to go somewhere, you don't have to think about it or prep for it. You just punch in the coordinates, and the GPS literally step by step guides you to your destination. If you make a wrong turn, miss an exit, it recorrects you and puts you back on. Now imagine that same theory, GPS for your car and destinations, for your financial destination. You want to pay off your debt. What if you had a GPS that told you how to do that in the most mathematically efficient way, meeting you where you are today? Okay. But you want to buy a car. You want the most efficient mathematical way to buy a car. You want to invest in real estate. You want to do private lending. You want to do this. You want to do that. You want to finance a copy machine for your office. And you want to know the mathematically certain way to do that. The vault is that for your financial life.
Yeah, and Chris, I know we're getting at time, but there were a lot of questions a little while ago about HELOCs and how you use HELOCs for velocity banking. But do we have 5 minutes so I can just show a quick example?
Yeah, we're almost done. So she went on after the first 30 days, the funds are available. Yes, those funds can then be taken from the policy to eliminate the debt. Yes. The debt is then repaid back to oneself in line with the infinite banking concept. Yes.
Yep.
Once the loan from the BYOB policy has been repaid, the process can be repeated.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And technically, even if it's not repaid, as long as you have more cash value or maybe future premiums or growth.
But just keep going, because I just keep her.
Okay. And specifically, would the same approach apply to a young adult in the 18 to 29 age range purchasing their first policy and then their first car, college, similar debt policy from 5 to 10,000 to start?
Yes. So the reason I wanted you to do this, and I know you're kind of like, why was that such a big deal to finish with that? Because outside of the first thing, where the confusion of the vault being the policy, the vault is the operating system, Sela articulated through everything we said the exact process of how this works. And I found it remarkable the way she just outlined that step by step by step. So that's the reason why I wanted to finish with this, as I thought that was really good and just a really good definition and explanation of exactly how this works, even for someone younger that has less money, that is just looking to get started to make their lives better now and in the future. That's the beauty about IBC. It's not like retirement. Well, someday. IBC is today, not someday. It is today, it is tomorrow, it is someday, it is every day. That's the difference. All right, Craig, let's show them that.
Well, the question that I oftentimes hear is, if I have a mortgage, so Chris, if I have a mortgage at 3.25, 3.25, would it make sense to use my 7.25 HELOC to pay off my house? That seems silly that I'm using a higher interest rate tool to pay off a lower interest rate loan.
I'm the wrong guy to ask because I already know the answer, but why don't you ask somebody over here? Because they would be like, no, Craig, you're an idiot. You would never.
All right. Well, let's just ask the audience. Does it make sense to use a higher interest HELOC to pay off a lower interest mortgage? yes or no in the chat, and let's see what people think. And if everybody says yes or no,
And we
okay, so
would
we have,
know they're all cheating.
we have a lot of yeses. We have a lot of yeses. Well, I just wanted to show that. Eva says no. We've got a few no's in here. Look, at the end of the day, what I'm going to show you is something in the vault that's just more of a velocity banking strategy. But here's the deal, and Jocelyn hit it right on the head, is the HELOC is simple interest. The mortgage is amortized. So let's take a quick peek at it, and I'll just show the math, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is make decisions on math. So here I am. I have in the debt blaster, in the vault, I have a mortgage, $305,000 balance, 3.25% rate, and I'm paying $2,257.67, 67 cents a month. All right, now we go down to velocity banking. Velocity banking is all about taking our income, putting it into a velocity banking tool such as a HELOC. So we put all of our income into the HELOC, pay our bills out of that HELOC, and use chunks of our HELOC to throw at our mortgage. So in this particular case, we've got someone that has about $9,500 of income. They have expenses of about $5,400. They have a debt payment of $2,257, which is their mortgage. And so at the end of the month, they have about $1,800, $1,900 of cash flow. They're leaving that in their HELOC to build it back up, because we're going to take, let's say we have a HELOC where there's $50,000 available, or $50,000 limit, and we have about $45,000 available. What we're going to do is take, say, $19,000, $20,000 chunks and throw that at the mortgage, use our cash flow to replenish that, and then just keep doing it. So here's the thing. We set this all up, and then I say, hey, Chris, hold my beer, even though I'm not much of a drinker. Hold my beer, because I'm going to now activate this VB boost. We're using a velocity banking boost. So what the payoff strategy shows us, if we just continue to pay our mortgage with that 2257, it'll take 169 months. We're going to add another $75,000 of interest to our mortgage, so we're going to pay about $380,000 to get that $305,000 out of our life. What we're talking about is with velocity banking, just using our HELOC, using our net cash flow. We'll have that HELOC we'll have that mortgage paid off and our HELOC replenished in about 83 months. Instead of paying $75,000 of interest to the bank, it's only $41,000. Well, I say only, but it's a lot better than 75. So at the end of the day, I don't want everyone just, focusing on this one case, but this is what the vault is all about. It's about running your numbers. What if I do this? What if I use my HELOC to pay my mortgage off? What if I have some more debts? What if I have credit card debts? What does it look like? And that's really what we've tried to build here. So I want to just share that with the group, Chris, and if there's any other questions, we can certainly cover that.
Love it. Thanks, Craig.
You bet.
One of the things I think we'll do now in wrapping this up is just remind everybody, that all of the stuff we covered today, we went over the surface on every one of those things, but all of that is edited and time-stamped in the recordings that we're offering to all of you for $47. It's right there in the chat right now. So this will probably be one of the only times you'll be able to get this, because this was just put together. Shauna was like, it was too good of a training just to not allow others to get this. And earlier, everybody said they wished they could have been there. They wish they would have done it. Well, now is your opportunity, so grab that. And I just want to finish with this. This is kind of how I finished. I finished up with something remarkable on the two-day training that I'm definitely never going to repeat. I read my new book that's coming out in 2026. It's called The Key to It All, A Legend Lived. It's literally, I guess it's my memoir. I guess that's what you call it, right? It's the story of my life told in a third person about a father and a daughter, and parables and stories he tells her. But it was the hardest book I could ever write. It will be single-handedly the hardest book in my life that I ever write, because I had to kill myself. I don't mean kill myself. I had to show how these impacts, these things I did in my life, my mistakes, my failures, my accomplishments, all told in stories to my daughter. And the girl in the story is my daughter. Her name was Vivi. My daughter's 5 and she's Vivi. And all these stories are told in parables, in third person tone. But at the end, when the father passes away, when I pass away, The daughter is given a key, okay? That's the key that her father wore around his neck on a chain his whole life. The key opens a vault. In the vault are all the memorabilia and all the memories of these stories that he told her throughout his life. These stories that she thought were just made up stories are actually stories of her father's life. She pieces it all together, and then there's a letter that he gives her in this trunk that basically just spells it all out, that every one of those stories, those lessons, those parables that was told to you during your life was to prepare you for this moment, the moment where you no longer can ask me questions because I won't be here anymore, but you will be prepared and ready. I read the last chapter of that book. It would be the first and the only time I will ever do that, because I barely held it. I didn't hold it together at all, but I got through it with a little help from Joseph. But it's pretty amazing, not because it's a book, not because it's the story of my life, not just because of that, but it's just amazing when you let that sink in, that we are all here for a short period of time. The legacy we leave isn't always money, cars, houses. It's the lessons we leave behind that prepare the next generation, our kids, to live a better life, a more fulfilling life, a more grateful life filled with gratitude, and a life of giving. And that is what I really tried to embody in the book, A Key to It All. And if you buy that training for $47, you'll be able to witness that. I don't think I've ever been that, what's the word?
Vulnerable.
Vulnerable in my entire life. I didn't want to do it. I dreaded it the whole morning, but I did it. And just wanted to let you know that recording isn't just a recording for you to learn. It's a very, very near and dear one to my heart, and it will be a one of a kind. I promise you that much. And Princess said she saw the story on TEDx. The TEDx is what led to this book, okay? Because the TEDx was just the letter that I wrote to my daughter, and I truly did write that letter. That letter is in that trunk in the book after I pass away. Try writing a book where you have to pass yourself away and talk about what happens next, what your kids think, what your kids feel. Like, might sound easy, but do it. Just try it. It's one of the most difficult things. But with that being said, I want to give you guys a final law, and that is what we began with today, and it is you become what you think about. Act from faith. Your reality becomes your mirror of faith. Those who stand alone today, I want you to write this down. Those who stand alone today are the ones people and society will seek out tomorrow. Some of you might feel like you're alone on an island, like nobody's listening. Everybody says you're stupid. Everybody says this is the dumbest idea. Tell your family and they'll tell you it's stupid. It's the dumbest thing you've ever heard. You're going to feel like you're alone on an island. You're going to feel so alone and alienated. But you have to remember, those who stand alone today are the ones people and society seek out tomorrow. Because if you follow the path we just laid out to you today and the path that 2-day training laid out, you will be that one people seek out. You know the people that will be seeking you out? The exact people that shunned you in the beginning. Don't believe me? Do it. Be the example. Be the one in your family that steps outside, that steps outside the norm, that learns the secrets that everybody else says are scams or stupid. Be that one and watch how those people seek you out later because of your success. And then they'll ask, what is it that you did? What is the secret? What did you do? And you say to them, the exact same thing I told you that you told me was stupid and a scam. That's what I did. I did it every single day, consistently and persistently, with conviction, with the goal that every day I wake up, I'm going to win. That's it. That's all. Thanks for joining us for this webinar. Hopefully it was a good one for you. Grab that training, and we'll see you this afternoon for the Ask Me Anything happy hour at 4:30, where we're going to hit all the rest of these amazing questions that came in. Until then, we'll see you later.